Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve.
Hello and welcome back. This is episode 70. I've given this one the title of Why You're a Bad Investor for two reasons. One, I'm going to try and explain why humans are naturally not good at investing from a evolution brain point of view, behavioral point of view. But before we go into that, I've got Alex back with me again today. I just wanted to mention in the intro, I've been reading another finance-based book. It's called Poverty Safari, Understanding the Anger of Britain's Underclass. It's by a chap called Darren McGarvey, who in the very first page states he is not an author, but he's written a book, so he clearly is. It's good. I've not read the whole thing. I've read about maybe a third so far now, and it's about his own experiences of poverty and its effects kind of firsthand, and why. Like he digs a bit into the deprived communities, and it kind of digs into why people who live in deprivation in these particular communities make different decisions. Because I think everyone, myself included, is guilty of thinking, or if they just did X and Y, they would be better off. But there are reasons for that, and the main themes of the book are kind of how persistent poverty affects kind of your mental state and how it impacts your decision making around two other things around unemployment and how that feels, and also about being socially excluded from not just your peers around you, but from feeling like you can go up the social economic ladder, and it kind of keeps you down there without any kind of option, really. So I guess if you are listening to this, you're probably not in that kind of boat, I suppose. But it's a real kind of eye-opening thing for me, because I'm kind of guilty of not really thinking about other people's positions that much unless I actively think about it, as we're kind of doing podcast recordings and stuff. It's made me feel quite grateful and quite humble for where I'm at. So, Alex, have you read it or no?
I haven't read it, but that sounds like an interesting book. I think, yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess you don't. I'm probably similar to you with you make certain judgments, don't you, based off some like what you might see, and oh well, if only you did X, Y, Z, you'd be much better off. But
Mm.
it's obviously very different for for those. So yeah, I would definitely give that a read. One of the things I grew up in old mining town in Yorkshire. So I've heard I never saw it firsthand because I was too young when all the mines closed and stuff. But my family and extended family were all around where you saw some of the um, almost the economic heart of um, these places just get completely ripped out, and nothing's really replaced it. And it creates incredibly close communities, and it's very much like an us versus them type mindset that happens. But I'm quite fascinated by the kind of the miners' strike and the pit closures and all that. So I've been reading a bit more into that and more broadly around the politics around it, and it's very eye opening. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think just as a tangent here, it's you see it kind of all over the place. It's in Kent, for example, the Chatham Dockyard used to be a humongous business,
Yeah, yeah.
and it employed loads of people from the local area. And as soon as that shut, it's just you're basically turning off an economic tap, and people do really struggle. And there is I don't know what kind of how we got to talking about coal mining, but I've actually been to the National Coal Mining Museum, which is in Wakefield, and
Yes.
it's actually paid some extra and went down in one of the pits, and it's really far down. It's really dark. It's constantly wet. And at one point, the guy turned his lights off, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm in pitch black here, hundreds of meters below the earth." And imagine working in that environment, and that being your only method of earning money. Um, and they told all sorts of stories about how whole families would work in the pit, and if you weren't in good favour with the pit master or the person who allocates people, you could go a couple of days without an income, and it would be kind of terrifying to not be able to feed your family. Yeah, if no one's been, or you haven't been, and you live around there, it's in Wakefield. It's the National Coal Mining Museum. I really enjoyed it. You could spend a whole day there. I really learned an awful lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's fair. So I grew up literally just around the corner from Wakefield,
did
so
you? How
I
strange.
know it very well. Yeah, and another place if you're up in that neck of the woods is the Beamish Museum as well,
Okay.
which is it's more in the northeast, but it's an old um like an early 1900s village that they've set up, um, but of which one is a coal mine, and you can go down in the coal mine. So it was a working pit which is closed, and they've made a museum out of it. But yeah,
Nice.
similar. You can go down and you can see the conditions. But it's that thing where once the mines had got taken away, there was literally nothing,
Yeah.
and it just rips any economic, um, rips the economy out of that place, and
Yeah.
nothing apart from
Mm,
I don't know, nothing's replaced it
no.
to that extent.
Maybe they just
So
filled the mines with, I don't know, something else, I guess. But if you are a miner and that's all you know, you can't
mm,
transition into something else. Kind of a
no,
pretty niche skill, isn't it? And I'm kind of sort of half glad coal mines are closed because we get kind of greener energy and stuff now. But if that's all you know and all you've done for your life, then pivoting into something else, uh, very difficult. It's a very unique kind of skill, I guess.
it is.
If you survive and if you don't succumb to some kind of lung disease with all the dust down there. It's
Yeah,
eye opening. So, yeah, I haven't been to the museum. Yeah, if you haven't been, I would suggest you go. Okay, that's a very long intro. 6 minutes about coal mining. We've kind of gone off tangent on investing, but that's the story of that book. A quick return on heartbeats from both of us, actually. And Alex, I think you should go first because yours is infinitely better than mine.
yeah. So my return on heartbeats. I was at the British Grand Prix in Silverstone over the weekend. So me and my wife went. We camped next to the racetrack in a huge campsite. So we went on the Wednesday afternoon and came back on the Monday. Saw some incredible racing, a wonderful spectacle to go to. There's bands there, there's foods, there's this is 500,000 people was were at the track between the Friday and the Sunday, and it was real carnival atmosphere, and yes, absolutely unforgettable, and so much better than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be really good. So big return on heartbeats for me over the last few days.
Yeah, it's amazing when you expect something to be great and actually it's just excellent. It just exceeds your expectations. Um,
Yes, yeah. And how about yours, Alex?
yeah, not as big, I guess, as that. So my wife and I in Kent, we go sometimes to a local animal sanctuary, like a rescue, and as part of that, we're on their email list, and they sent an email a week or so ago asking for volunteers to go and feed a load of pigs because they'd had a humongous delivery of potatoes from I think a couple of supermarkets or farmers or something. So they came in these huge brown bags. There was probably 400 kilos worth of potatoes, like a lot of sacks of
Wow.
potatoes. So there was about 30 volunteers, mostly kids, some adults as well, parents around. And then just the morning was split between kind of opening the bags, chucking away the moldy ones, putting all the reasonable potatoes in a tractor bucket, and then the farmer drove this huge tractor bucket round to the pig field, and then we just spend the next hour and a half just launching potatoes into the pig field. Pigs love root vegetables, so like potato, parsnip, anything that grows under the ground. They absolutely loved it. Loads of people had a great time feeding the pigs. I really enjoyed it because it's kind of giving back to the community, etc. And Alex, if you're wondering, I can absolutely throw a potato way further than a 10-year-old.
Oh, I had no doubt.
Yeah, without not even close. But yeah, really good, kind of a good idea. I really enjoyed it. The farm is great. It's called Billy's Retreat. It's in a village called High Holden down in Kent. So if you're passing again, great place to visit. They've got a great cafe. It's open between like March and November. Uh, You've got a thrift store, a little supermarket, and obviously loads of rescue animals. So you can spend a whole day there as well.
Brilliant. That sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. And so many volunteers that they thought they would need people Saturday and Sunday. And on Saturday, they were just like, guys, we're done. We don't need you to come back tomorrow, because loads of people just turned up and helped. It was, really good. Okay, should we move after 10 minutes to why people are bad investors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be more of I guess, a me talking thing because it's kind of brain behavior, etc. But Alex, do chuck any questions in if you do have. I'll randomly pause as I go on my ramblings. But so the idea here is to understand why we need to think about investing in a like a rational way, and to why like planning and having a financial plan is a good idea because it keeps you on track. Firstly, our brains are all dynamic. They're very, very good at firstly distracting ourselves, procrastinating, going off topic, going off task, looking at the new next shiny thing, which includes it's kind of new and not so shiny, but news and outlet reports of stock market movements. There are reasons why we pay attention to the color red. It's the same color as your blood. Blood should be inside you and not out of you. So whenever we see something like that, it piques a little part of our brain that says, actually, you need to pay attention because we could be in danger here. We've talked before that we never hear about the years and years that the stock market goes up. It's only ever negative. And the reason for that, it's not just because people love doom and gloom, but it's because humans innately and naturally, we pay attention to dangerous things. So if you've ever walked somewhere and the hair on the back of your neck has stood up and you've realized that you need to either move, do something, turn around, it's that kind of response, but not quite so intense. And the reason humans actively pay attention to that is because if you don't, you wouldn't have survived until now. So Alex, if we think about, say, your family tree, you are alive because your parents were alive, because their parents were alive, all the way back when, to the beginning of time, whenever that was. The 21st century, urbanized living as we live in at the moment, is a very small time frame compared with how long humans have populated the Earth. I don't have a year figure on how many years we've been around, but it's a lot longer than we've had kind of urbanization. So those parts of your brain, it's controlled by something called your amygdala, which is a tiny little almond-shaped thing right in the middle of your head next to your cerebellum, cerebellum is Latin for little brain, ceres and then bellum, right? The reason it's right in the middle is because we need it to survive. So if you get a knock to the head, you get punched, you're in a boxing match or something, you're not just going to lose that part because it's very, very important in kind of genetics and being able to pass your genes on. If you don't pay attention to that, you're more likely to wander off, come into some kind of issue, accident, which means you then cannot pass your genes on. So it's an innate thing. We don't learn by anyone really that cliffs are dangerous, deep water is dangerous, the red or yellow snake is dangerous. We just know that. And that is passed down from your parents, passed down from theirs, all the way down. It's just innate stuff that we know. So innate being from within.
Yeah, because I always think that when like you say you're doing like a hike or something and there's big cliffs, or there might be that there's fast cars coming around. I think you almost that is dangerous without consciously knowing it's dangerous. And I guess that's
if you had to learn from doing it, like no one's pushed you off a cliff before, because you wouldn't be here, right? We just know. We don't have to learn from experience. We just have this instinct that is dangerous. I should not do it. I need to be safe. And the reason for that is so you can procreate, really pass your genes on. And move forwards. Because if you don't, then part of that is lost. So it's an innate thing. So that's why, broadly, humans pay attention to negative things. We know negative news sells. I've heard the word news reimagined as Negative Events World Service, NEWS. That was by a chap called Andy Hart that runs Maven Money. He's a practicing financial advisor out of London. His podcast is very, very good as well. I credit him from a lot of my learning as well. So we pay attention to bad stuff, especially around money. When we think about what money means to humans, it means being able to get stuff, buy things, eat, kind of shelter, be in a kind of a warm environment, clothing, etc. And it's the majority of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the bottom rung, the absolute basics that you would need to survive in human society, right? Take away any one of those, and it's life's going to be very, very difficult for you. An example of that would be homelessness. Yeah. So that's why we instinctively pay attention to that. So if we see, for example, we've been investing for 10 years or something, and we see a load of red screens, news reports, on ticker tape feeds, etc., on phones, and notifications to say that this has gone down this much and that's gone down that much. There's been a bloodbath here and the worst day since the Black Monday or whatever. That is designed to pique our interest, so we pay attention. And then what happens is it's kind of a chain reaction. So the reason markets go down and they crash very, very quickly is humans make decisions to move money out or in to markets. So if someone reads a story somewhere that says this stock has gone through the floor, they might panic and think, oh, actually, I need this money in life. I've worked really hard for it. I'll sell and I'll bring some out. That decreases the stock price a tiny, tiny amount. But then imagine 100 people do that. And then 100 people see that news thing, and 100 people look at their phone and see their portfolio's gone down. And then 1,000 people sell and bring their money out, and 10,000 people sell. And that's when you see avalanches in terms of stock charts. You see these huge drop-off cliffs. And that's humans reacting to other humans' decisions. And the reason we do that, it's a little bit kind of mob mentality. It's a fear response, again, coming from your amygdala and a little bit of your kidneys here. So your kidneys have little pyramid-shaped glands sitting above them called adrenal glands. That provides adrenaline, so you can do kind of superhuman things. But it also feeds your stress and your cortisol response. So all of those are firing, and you're panicky. You should do something about it because everyone else is doing something. They must know something that I don't know. Therefore, to be safe, I'll do the same. It's always better in our brains to do the same as everyone else because you are more likely to survive. To extrapolate it out on a massive level, right? Within investing, you're not going to die, but you can lose some money. And the ironic thing is, by doing that, you lock in perhaps a loss, but it provides an element of certainty. And our brains, as prediction engines, hate uncertainty.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I guess it's all of that, like the panic selling and wanting, you sell at a loss. It's almost that thing of, well, you then create certainty because at least you've got X amount of money, and then that's like linked to that safety element of, if I therefore have X amount of money, I can then I can still buy food and buy clothes and buy shelter. And it's almost that innate. And I imagine a lot of this is going on in your brain and in your body completely unconsciously, in terms of, you obviously feel the panic, but you probably don't acknowledge it as a automatic response of something that was in your brain from probably tens of thousands of years ago that just hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah. So we've got prehistoric brains and we live in the 21st century. They are not the best at being aligned to where we need them to be, which is why we're seeing huge rises of like mental health conditions that just didn't exist way back when. If you take something like anxiety or the ability to wait for something. So Alex, you and I are a similar age when the internet first graced our kind of houses with a big chunky like PC or whatever that would dial up internet.
Yeah.
you eventually buy something online. It takes 8 days, 9 days to arrive for a CD or whatever. And that's absolutely fine because you know that. And actually, man, to go to the shops, that's great. You've saved yourself a bit of time. Fast forward to now, if you order something today, you expect it delivered tomorrow, at the very latest, like the day after. And with the advent of kind of the delivery services. If you order something from somewhere now, it can be delivered in less than an hour. So the idea of waiting 8 days for something to be delivered is totally nonsensical to us. And that then creates a response in our bodies. We don't like that because we have to then fill our time until we get said thing. We've talked about how advertising impacts our human brain. It solves a need, and it provides stress relief, basically a reduction in cortisol and anxiety, adrenaline. Because then we think, when we get this mop, I think we talked about mops, didn't we? When we get this new flash mop or something, my house will then be clean.
Yeah.
And it just buys you a little bit of relief. And that's what the human brain is designed to do, is to create relief from somewhere, because it can't run at 100% kind of running all the time. It's absolutely exhausting. So it kind of provides you with the way out of doing that, which is why adverts create wanting and needs for stuff, and then eventually purchasing. Yeah.
I also had a question actually on something. It's something I was reading the other day about. So when you come to doing like managing your portfolio, one of the you set like an asset allocation. So how much do I want in stocks? How much do I want in bonds? Or whether that be how much in property or commodities, however complex you want your portfolio to be. One of the risks of a portfolio is you set your asset allocation, and let's just say you are 50% stocks and 50% bonds. And this is usually only a problem when you're not putting money in month to month. And in a year's time, stocks have outperformed massively, and actually you're now 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds. And what you should do to bring yourself back to what you set yourself is the 50-50, is you need to sell stocks and buy bonds. And that involves selling something that has actually gone up in value and buying something that has gone down in value. And because of the psychological impact, if you don't want to, something keeps going up and up and up, so you don't want to sell it, but balancing that with then buying something that's potentially gone down in value. But the whole point being, it's the discipline of, I wanted 50-50 stocks and bonds for my risk profile and my age and my scenario. Then it's like there's quite a hard psychological battle, I think, that goes on. And often it's just like you set this target allocation for yourself, and then you either just automatically, there are funds that automatically do it for you, or you like this is where I guess financial advisors could become helpful. But is there psychology? Do you recognize that psychology at all, or?
Yeah. So the act of doing that is difficult. It's a little bit backwards to sell something that's doing really well and buy something that's currently underperforming. So having a written financial plan to say, I've chosen this split allocation, whatever it may be, is what I've chosen with my goal, my personal goals in mind. And they're all different for everyone, which is why personal finance is personal. But the idea of selling something that's done well, I think, is difficult to do, which is why there are funds that do that for you. They charge a little bit more, but it removes the decision making. You will always, as humans, we're not robots, right? We'll always find a reason to do something or to not do something. I can justify anything to myself if I try hard enough. And that'll be interesting for our reasonable or ridiculous in a bit. But the idea of that, of auto rebalancing, I think, is useful. It takes away decision making. And also it just gives you another task that you don't have to do, which is why I choose a fund that auto rebalances, because I don't want to get in my own way. I don't want to get in my own head. And I don't want another task to have to kind of check that on a whatever basis. But I do think it's difficult because you have to stick with your original plan, but your brain will be like, but actually it's different now. And one of the most dangerous things in investing is this time it's different, because actually it's probably not.
Yeah. And I think that there's a good few sayings around the investment strategy that's best for you is the one that you can stick to, and like almost chopping and changing all the time. And I read a good book, which was about dividend investing actually, and they were talking about the principle of, if you imagine if you're in a garden and you plant an oak tree, and after two years it's only got a little stick, and and there's other trees growing better than it, and then you dig that oak tree up and put it somewhere else, it's never going to develop the roots it needs to then grow into an oak tree over time. And
Mm.
so and the point being, almost you need to set something and almost not touch it and just be patient. And
Yeah.
rather than, oh, I'll change that and I'll do this and I'll follow that crowd now and I'll do this crowd next. There's so many psychological battles that go on when you're looking at your money.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pulls and places kind of going around, and you'll always have reasons to do particular things. And to use another kind of tree analogy, like bamboo is one of the fastest growing trees kind of on the planet. It takes some time to establish a solid root network, and then it will grow like crazy. Like we're talking feet per year, like loads and loads of it. So it's really renewable, but it needs time to kind of assert its root system in the ground. And if you move it, it's not going to do that, and it keeps getting interrupted. So, and we've said before, like Charlie Munger said, leave the compounding machine to do its thing and don't interrupt it.
Hmm.
Leave it be to run. So another kind of reason as to why we why we meddle with stuff is because we're a designed to pay attention to the news media that goes on, which is why we've said limit your kind of exposure to that, because it is difficult. At some point, you will feel emotions, stress around it. You'll start to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. And when that happens, you start to kind of not trick yourself, but you second guess what you're doing and why you're doing it. Some other reasons as to why we make kind of rash decisions, which we then later regret, is we talked about social pressure, mob mentality. But have you ever heard of the study by a man called Solomon Asch on conformity? It's in the 50s.
No, I've not heard of that.
Okay, so he's basically studying human conformity. So he got a couple of people in a room, I think 10 of them, and he would say, put up some screens, and he would say, everybody tell me which of these four lines is the tallest. And the answer's plainly obvious, like it's A, it's the tallest line. And everyone says A, and that's great. And then the next one, the answer is B, the next one, the answer is C, etc. But the interesting thing here is 9 out of 10 of those are in on the experiment, they're in on the trick. And what happens when they get to a certain kind of screen and they look at picture back in the 50s, yeah, they look at four lines, and there's one that's like it's not obviously taller, but it is taller, and you can see it if you study it. And the other three are kind of in between, and one of them is close. So all 9 people who are in on it, they all say that D is the tallest, even though the answer should be, say, B. And one person says, actually, no, it's B. I still think it's B, regardless of what you say. And the more times they're asked that question, eventually the one person who's not in on it eventually will change their answer, because they want to feel like they're in with the group. It's isolating, not agreeing with other people. And that's why we don't like, as humans, we don't like going against the grain of how society works. And it kind of keeps things in order, and it helps us rationalize our decisions. And if you're a bit mean, you can play this game on your kids and see which of them do that and which of them don't, or your colleagues, whatever. But it still stands true even today.
Yeah, that's really so. That's like the herd mentality type thing. You don't want to feel like you're different you're not contrarian.
Yeah, it's the social pressure to fit in and agree with the other people, even though you know in your heart and your soul and your brain that actually you are right. Eventually, that pressure will build to a point where you change your answer.
Which I guess from an investing perspective, then I would say you want to, as you said, ignore a lot of the noise. As we
Mhm.
um, talk a lot about, utilizing a lot of the index funds and passive funds that buy everything and then you leave them alone, or just obviously just put in money every month or however much you do, but you don't want to be chopping and changing and buying and selling and trading all the time.
Mm.
Um, and I think, yeah, it's like the studies where often the best investors on the kind of retail platforms are often dead.
Yeah, and the key thing here is they can't mess with it.
Is that yeah, yeah.
There's another, like a kind of a last bit here around like humans and meddling with things. So, for example, we as humans, we always overstate our input in something. So say you and I, we buy different funds. We both put £100 in two different funds. One of them goes up and one of them goes down. We as humans, we're much more likely to think, oh, actually, I did better because I picked the right fund, and the other one of us didn't do as well because they chose the wrong one. Therefore, my decision making was better, even if it's entirely random and we've got no control over the index or whatever fund we pick going up or down. If it goes up, we feel good about it, and we're like, actually, I'm good at investing because it's just dumb luck at that point that that fund has gone up at that time. Whereas if it goes down, we're more likely to blame other things. We'll blame, I don't know, war, markets, silicon chips not being made for cars, anything at all to remove the blame from ourselves. We don't like feeling like we got something wrong, and that is linked to loss aversion. So we don't enjoy knowing that our decisions have made us worse off, which is why winning something feels lovely for a little bit of time, but losing something feels much worse for much longer. Our brains are not designed for that because, well, they are and they're not. They're not designed to like it because it means our life is harder, for example. And again, if we're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy, if we gamble our house or our farm away, that's going to feel absolutely terrible. So we shouldn't do it. But if we do that and we win something, we'll be like, oh, that was me. I was great. I'm the best at playing whatever card game we're playing or something. When actually, it's probably not got much to do with you. It's more of a luck thing. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I think that's probably why people will hang on to losses in the
Yeah.
stock market. And if they buy, and I'm guilty of that myself in the past as well, where I've almost bought things without, when I first started investing, I wasn't really doing any due diligence on companies and just looking at the prices going up and down. And then you end up, the company actually turned out to be this loss-making basket case, but then you to hang on to it because it's almost as soon as you sell, then you admit that you were wrong.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
hard.
it is, yes. So I think yeah, I can completely get that.
Cutting your losses in something like that is hard. So we often end up keeping things until, I mean, a member of my family's held some shares in a particular company and they're down 60 something percent now. And they always say to me, I'm just going to hold them until they go back up. And I'm like, they're never going to go back up. Like literally dead in the water. I would take some money back out while you can. And we're talking trivial amounts here, like less than a lunch. So
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of criminal at that point. But I think it's the opening yourself up to feeling a negative feeling because actually it hasn't worked out the way you expected it to work. So it's difficult. That is most of the things I have on how our brains work and how our bodies kind of impact the decisions we make. I mean, we always say as well, one last thing I've just thought about is write your financial plan with whoever else is in your family, your partner, whatever. Write it when you're not hungry, you're not tired. Over a couple of days, don't write it in a panic. Don't write it when you're stressed or anything like that because it will impact your decision making. And a good example here is going shopping when you're hungry. You'll spend way more money than you thought you would. You'll buy all sorts of stuff because it's caught your eye and it's on the end of an aisle. So do it at a time when actually you have a lot less of that stuff going on. Think about what you want to get out of life first and what your life plan is, things you want to do, milestones you want to achieve, and then work your financial plan around those goals you set yourself. So always have really the end goal in mind and then basically draw yourself a little map of financial decisions to help you get there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think then having that plan is always that thing to refer to whenever there is turbulence
Yeah.
in the market.
Yeah. So I've wrote mine in the back of my brown notebook on my bookshelf. And whenever markets go down a lot and I start to feel it and I start like, oh, I'm getting a bit twitchy here, I'll open that book and I think I wrote it in like 2019 or something. And I put the date on it. I think I put the time on it and I signed it. And I was like, I wrote, I will not sell due to market movements. And then my brain's like, well, this is a market movement. Actually, previously you said you don't need to sell. Therefore, and it's really helped me. And it's helped me stick to the plan as we move forward. And I'm much, much, much better off as a result of sticking to the plan than just meddling all the time.
Yeah, I think that's completely well testament to having one in place, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's helped for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, any other questions around anything we talked about?
No, I think that's been really helpful actually, just to get under the skin of it and acknowledge that people can be bad investors.
Absolutely. We're all fallible for sure. We're all kind of, we all can change our thought patterns on a lot of external and internal stuff. And it's really difficult to recognize it in the moment because, for example, when you are full of anxiety and you either need to fight or run to protect yourself or your life or your family, etc., the rational part of your brain switches off. So you can't think about it from a rational point of view because your brain is then saving energy, because you don't need to be able to compute maths equations when you're running or fighting for your life, which is, again, an example of this is you see a person who normally wouldn't be able to lift a car lift something off a toddler or a child or something because all of that energy has been diverted to glucose and muscles and just to pull something or open something. Like I'm just thinking opening like a lift door. If your kid's one side and it's closed and you're the other side, you yank that open. And it's why humans can do superhuman things because that diversion has happened and your brain is sending all available energy plus a load of adrenaline plus a load of cortisol to be able to do really things that you just wouldn't normally be able to do. Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else, Alex, any other thoughts from you, we'll move quickly to a reasonable or ridiculous, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's have a reasonable or ridiculous.
Reasonable or ridiculous?
Cool. So this one from me is it's been a little bit of time in the making. So I've been kind of refreshing my wardrobe over the last 2-3 months or so. I've been buying some like linen clothes because it's been boiling hot. I've been on a couple of holidays where I've just not packed well. Like last time I went to France, I didn't take a single pair of shorts, and I was swelteringly warm for a lot of that. So I've been redoing a bit of my wardrobe, and looking at buying like linen clothes. I work with a chap who was born in India, and I said to him like, "Where do you get your clothes from?" And he's like, "Well, I just buy it from India when I go and see my family." And I asked him what he thought of this. It was not a pinstripe, but a blue and white linen shirt from a company called Reese. I've got some other kind of Reese clothes, but it was £110. And he laughed at me and he was like, "I bet you any money that's made in India." And I looked at it more and I was like, "Yeah, it is." So he then said to me, whenever I go back to India, I go to a tailor that I know there and he makes me clothes. Do you want me to get him to make you some clothes? And I was like, all right, this seems like a good idea. So I ended up posting a pair of trousers and a shirt to a tailor in India, picking some fabric via a WhatsApp video. He's been kind of hard at work making clothes in his downtime. But I've worked out that to buy 5 items, and this is 2 pairs of trousers and 3 shirts, it will cost me about 80 quid.
Wow, that's really good.
It's mental, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that's basically what I've been doing, plus a little bit of postage. I'll probably be in for about £40 worth of postage. So it's £120 all in for 5 100% good quality like linen items, like tailored to my measurement. Whereas the other Reese shirt for one of them, untailored, would be £110. So in a long, drawn out way, do you think it's reasonable or ridiculous that I'm having clothes made in India 2,000 miles away from where I live, because it costs less?
I think that's completely reasonable. I think that's a great idea, actually. And because all that the companies do here is just they're still all made in India or Bangladesh or somewhere, aren't they? And then just a huge markup just gets put on it. So I think that's a great shout. And wow, that's really.
I showed this guy the Reese shirt I was looking at. It's 110 quid. It says made in India anyway on it, and the only difference is the branding, the badge, really.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, looking at these other websites that I was shown and having them made by a tailor in Guy, each shirt I think is like £15 or something. So the other I mean, what's the difference? What, 95 quid? The other 95 quid is because it comes in a fancy bag with a label on it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd cut the label out of any shirt I owned if it gave me 95 quid back.
Yeah, true.
And I'm not that precious about branding at all.
I think that's it. There's no signaling. If you're not bothered about the signaling, then you don't need to spend that much on it. Oh, I think that's incredibly reasonable.
Oh, cool. So, I mean, when they arrive, I'll have another look. Hopefully, they fit me well, and I'm happy with them. But yeah, I was kind of, each decision I made along this path, I was just like, oh, you're in too deep now. You can't not do it. So
Yeah.
I'm all the way in. They're currently being made or stitched or whatever they're doing. I don't know. And then they will arrive, I'm hoping, in time for a holiday in August, because the place we booked has not got air conditioning. I'm hoping I'll be nice and cool in some handmade linen clothes. So yeah, with that is our reasonable or ridiculous. So we feel it's reasonable to have clothes made in India and shipped here. Okay, are you happy, Alex, to do a summary?
Yes, I will do a summary. So started off with a bit of on the return on heartbeat. So Alex, you were feeding pigs and I was watching the British Grand Prix, and both had huge returns on heartbeats for those. And then we went on to the summary of the main body around why people become bad investors, and that centers around the fact that we have a brain we have a prehistoric brain living in a modern world, and it hasn't really adapted to know what is truly dangerous and what isn't. And I think as such, we tend to overreact to certain like news articles, and for example, in on the stock market when it's crashing, we're much more drawn to those and more prone to take action because we think something is bad when actually it's not. Other things around herd mentality. So we like to be part of a crowd. We like to conform, and where we see other people selling or buying certain things, we often will follow them without having a kind of rational, logical reasoning behind them. And then I think the final bit was just around the loss aversion, and why people can often hold on to losses is they don't want to solidify the fact that they made a mistake. And then final bit was just around whether it's reasonable or ridiculous to have your clothes manufactured by your own tailor in India and then shipped across, which I think is wholeheartedly reasonable considering the price difference between that and the high street.
Perfect. Another super summary. And with that, thank you for listening. This has been episode 17. If you've got any thoughts or questions, you can email us at nursingyourwaytowealth@gmail.com. And thank you, Alex, for your time. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.